I think by mistakenly I stopped the complete one. No issues. We can take in two parts.
Yeah, okay, sir.
So this is about kind of seeing the past history. We can see for past week or maybe for past month what was green, what was error, what was the warnings. Then if we talk about vSAN alarms. So again, a lot of alarm definitions have been defined already here, especially for vSAN health alarm. So whatever even you are seeing in Skyline health page itself, so all the alarms being available here, particular component you can filter and you can check that. Okay. And so depend like how we want to configure. And further, the important thing is we can easily, lot of plugins are available in vROPs as well for your vSAN, where we can enable for many incidents and we can integrate with the vROPs for your vSAN as well. Then these are some of the performance tests typically we do for a random check, or maybe when we build a startup, we can check the VM creation. You remember last time we have done some of the tests, right? VM creation,
Yes, sir.
network test, you know, and
Yes.
performance we were talking about like from we can do that. So this is running VM test. So it will going to create the temporary VMs to all the host. It will check, yes, my hosts are ready just to create the VMs. Then network performance test, where we talk about like when you'll run performance test, it will check uh, the network connectivity, the network available bandwidth between your VMs. So, sorry, between your hosts. So what was the minimum one? If there is less than 850 MB, 850 MB, then you'll be getting some warning around there, right?
Yes, sir.
Then
Yes, sir. Yeah.
performance services. When we say the performance services, which is by default enabled with your cluster always, that shows like kind of the overall object healthy status. When we see the object healthy status, any kind of object, disk, VM file, VM home folder, Delta disk, there is some issue, then it will definitely showcase you kind of warning. Any kind of object compliance issue. When we find the compliance issue, especially when a object is not following up the kind of storage policy, or my object placement is not being followed up by the storage policy. For an example, if I'll take FTT1, RAID1, and I've created my objects three places by any region, this host is down by XYZ region, then these rest of the component will show any status of non-compliance. And also if in case for my data store, earlier was policy was FTT1 RAID 1 kind of that, I have converted it to FTT1 RAID 5, apply to entire data store. Okay, the VMs are deciding here. When you see, they will show kind of, because I have applied my policy to the entire data store, they'll come in a non-compliance state, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So this is kind of IO trip advisor. IO trip means how many IOPS is received by the disks, by your hard disk drives. So it is in, again, in monitoring section, you will go physical disk performance IO trip. This is especially for your VM setting. This is the disk level settings, right? Am I getting the sufficient IOs? That's a pretty kind of new features from 8.x onwards. You can go and add IO trip advisor. You can test for particular disk and you can run that. But it is on VM level, virtual machine level, not for the entire cluster. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, sir.
Then the performance measurement, and we'll say the performance metrics. The performance metrics are available for entire, not only I would say your VM. These are available for your cluster, for your host, along with your virtual machines. And the performance metrics, just because of you are seeing, because by default my vSAN performance services have been enabled. So if you'll say monitor, here I go in a performance tab, it means that it's showing me the overall cluster performance. The overall cluster performance where we can set past hours, 24 hours, past 1 week, kind of that. And this is overall cluster level IOPS you are receiving, correct? You are getting what is my read latency, write latency. Further to go on deeper analysis of that, we can go the individual host, we can go performance, then there is available disks performance. Okay. So within the performance tab on my clusters, identify the VM and disk demand most resource demanding. So you can simply like, probably you are not aware, but some of the VMs out of 100 VMs, 10 VMs are high consumers of IOPS, but you don't know, like you cannot assume, right? So you can easily select top contributors. You don't need to make any filter. Then you will find that like which disks are consuming on particular VMs, right? The more IOPS. All right. Then in backend, again, backend performance chart is aggregation of all the hosts in the cluster from the host perspective. This is my VM overall. This is consumption, overall consumption by my host, by physical host, one by one. Like you are seeing here 2 line, maybe it's showing me the data of 2 hosts. You are seeing 3 lines, 4 lines. It's depend like, sorry, this is the read throughput and route throughput combinedly by your hosts are available. Again, you can see the result for past 1 hour, 24 hours, or past 1 week, kind of that. IO Insight, understand the performance characteristics for a specific disk you can select. You can make a filter for particular VM and particular disk, and you can check the disk level of granularity as well. Definitely, I mean, whenever we feel any performance issue, IO latency issue, we have to do some observations on disks level, especially anyway, in the VM, it's a virtual disk. But yeah, we have to go on individual disk and we have to check. Okay. So next is my capacity uses. Capacity is again how much being used, how much is free, what is my reservation setting, and where I have to define the alert values. So this will show you the overall capacity. The alerts by default value is 70%, 90%, 70% for it is for your data store level, entire data store level. Okay. 70% capacity error threshold, 90%. If you want to change it kind of 80 or 95, that's depend upon you. You can change that as well.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
You can set monitoring itself if the
Yeah.
breaches.
So it takes specific snapshot actually within capacity. Will say this is being showing the specific tab reservation and alerts. But yeah, within same tab you will get that object repair time also. That what you're talking about, 60%
Correct. Yes, sir.
where we
Yes.
can increase. But if you'll see the entire page for capacity, on the top you will find ORT, object repair time. You can increase that. Okay. So what if analysis just tell you like if I am for now the effective policy for the workload, the effective policy like by default it factorize vSAN default storage policy. That is my FTT1 RAID 1, right? Now it said
Yes, sir.
telling you like for an example, you want to go kind of RAID 5, FTT1, the effective free space for the new workload would be how much free space you will be getting. It may be most probably 20 GB available now onwards for the new workload. But for now with this, you have now, this is kind of what if analysis. That's it. If I will change one policy to another policy, it will not actually changing. It is just an kind of what if scenario. Okay. Then again, under the capacity, it's going to show you the actual VM capacity, user object, and the system usage. It is for use by your file system, kind of that. Okay. So in that way, we can perform the capacity analysis, monitoring of your components. We can go ahead, we can check the default alerts in the vSAN according to that. If we want to integrate my vSAN environment with the vROPS as well, we can perform that level of integration too. Fine.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so for this, I would definitely recommend you can try. Yeah, now you can share, please. Let me just
Sure.
allow.
Okay.
Yeah, it's already there. You can share your once. Oh, you want to log in real environment. Okay.
Oh, yes, sir.
And
Any issue, sir? Just we'll see only options, right? So that we won't do anything.
Servan, we can do it offline because it's in recording for now, but
Okay, okay, okay. Yeah, yeah,
stopping
okay,
it.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah, you can stop the recording, sir. That's fine.
Yeah, yeah.